And we're back. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Jim Viscardi, VP of Business Development over at Image Comics, and this is Let's Talk Comics. This is the podcast where we go one-on-one with your favorite creators in comics, where we talk about how they got into comics, why they got into comics, what they're still doing in comics, and what they see the future of comics looking like. Today's episode is a beast, because I am talking to someone who is a future first ballot Hall of Famer in the world of comics, hands down, on the eve of one of the biggest comic book launches of the decade. Battlebeast, #1. The person I'm talking to, Ryan Ottley. We've already talked to Robert Kirkman. If you want to hear that episode, it's a great one. Go listen to it. It's a couple episodes back. I promise you're going to love it. But today, we are talking to Ryan Ottley, and we go deep. We're going to talk about everything from how Battlebeast was a dream project that's kind of been simmering for the last couple of years. It's here, and he's crushing it on it. We're going to talk everything from drawing blood-soaked superhero pages to why deadlines are so critically important to his process. Ryan talks about returning to the Invincible universe on his own terms, Battlebeast's mythic rage, and the surprising genre turns that this book takes. Like I said, we're going to cover a ton of Battlebeast here, but we're also going to cover a ton of Invincible. Like, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of his decade-long collaboration with Robert Kirkman, how their creative shorthand form, how they push each other, and why their partnership still works after all this time. There's great insight on art, story, pacing, and why Ryan had to draw 89 original sketches for launch week. It's part war story, part masterclass, completely unfiltered. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's talk comics. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you very much. Good to be here.
So I'm gonna leave most of the Battlebeast stuff towards the end. But
to me, yeah.
Because we're kind of on the eve of Battlebeast, returning to this world, returning to the land of Invincible, was. I know you and Robert have a great relationship. Was it a hard conversation to have? Was it like, I don't know, is this what we're doing here or what? Or was it like, hell yeah, let's go?
That's exactly what it was. It was hell yeah, let's go from the very beginning. Yeah, it happened pretty quickly because, I was wrapping up. I was at Marvel for about 4.5 years or so after Invincible ended in 2018, and I jumped immediately right on Amazing Spider-Man after that, and I did 20 issues there, about 2 years, and it's one of those things where they asked me to sign again. And so I did. I signed on for another, amount of Spider-Man, and then I finished that, and they asked me to sign again, and I said, no, I'm kind of done with all ages. I need to get back to something a little more crazy. And then I jumped on to Hulk with Donny Cates, and that one was definitely more teen plus, and so it was much closer to something like Invincible, where I could go all out and be as insane as I want. So, right. But then after that one I did not sign again. I just said, I just want to do this amount, and then I'm done. I'm out of here. Nothing bad. I mean, it was actually very fun to do Hulk and Spidey and all that.
Right.
So,
F you, Marvel. I'm out. No, I'm just.
Yeah, it wasn't like that. It was, during the Hulk run, there was a lot of waiting for scripts and that kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah.
That's when Robert contacted me and said, "Hey, we're doing this Skybound X thing. Do you want to just do a quick 8-page Battlebeast?" And I was like, "Yeah. What else do I got to do? I'm just sitting here." So we did that, and it was just so much fun. And at the end it says "to be continued" with a question mark. And he's like, "Maybe would you want to do something like this after when you got time, when you're done with your projects?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, yeah, that would be amazing." So it wasn't a hard conversation. It was just boom, yes, I'm in. It's a total dream project because
So at this point, like, given that you've worked with Robert for a very long time, what kind of like creative shorthand do like the two of you kind of have, right? Like, how is the experience on Battlebeast now different than, say, maybe Invincible in 2018, but then also Invincible kind of back when you started? Like, what are were there kind of different phases or things that you learned about each other as collaborators that now maybe in Battlebeast is the Robert Ryan experience in its purest form?
Yeah. We've what is it? 22 years now we've been working together.
it's a little bit of a long time. I wasn't going to put a number on it, but yeah, it was a little bit of a long time.
I'm not afraid of no numbers. You can hit me with any numbers. I don't care. Yeah, it's definitely more of a shorthand. But I think we've established that shorthand years and years ago.
Sure.
So at the very beginning, issues 8, 9, 10. I mean, those scripts were all written before I was even on the book. So
Right.
once I jumped on that, if he eventually started writing for me, he's found out what I like and how I work and what's the easiest way for me to understand and comprehend what he's writing. And so that shorthand just, I think it quickly took hold, and he's like, all right, this guy likes to throw down on the fight scenes. So I'll throw in more of those. And, so yeah.
Now, is that one of those things where like, you do a fight scene comes up and it's in the script and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go buck wild on this. And then Robert's like, oh, yeah. Okay. Like, is that kind of how would you say maybe Invincible is pretty violent, from the start, but like, do each of you try to outdo one another in like the level of, he goes, all right, I'm going to write a really fucked up scene. And then you like really, really make it fucked up when you're drawing it. And then he's like, oh, you like, is there one upping each other in that instance? In that
I wouldn't say one upping. It's kind of hard because they're both so different, right?
Right.
Like one, he's saying, draw this. And then I'm saying, all right, I'm going to draw this, but I'm going to interpret it in my own way. And so do my own thing. So it's hard to say one upping, but
sure.
It is just, it isn't just me drawing violence. That's not the thing. It's
right.
He injects so much emotion and really great storytelling into this that I know it's my job to really bring it home, to tell. I'm telling his story, with art, and so I like to go all out because he's just making it so interesting, and so I'm like, all right, I got to bring the energy to this.
Well, I'd love to dig into that a little bit more because I'd love to, like, your style is so kinetic and expressive. As I lose an earbud, sorry. So like, what's your philosophy like when it comes to motion and violence on the page, right? Because it's not gratuitous, and you do, and there is the storytelling that you kind of bring to the page there. It like really shows itself. So I'd love to just hear a bit more about like your philosophy on that and how you kind of walk that tightrope.
I love things that are more practical. I sometimes analyze and think too much about a scene or whatever. I like authenticity. Mm-hmm. So like if it's two regular people fighting, it's not going to have the same amount of violence.
Right.
It's just not. It's just, you're going to see a little blood on the nose, that kind of thing. But when it's superhero fights, this is something that me and Robert always missed when we were a kid reading comics. And you're just like, what is this guy doing? He's got swords. He's got swords on his hands. Why isn't he slicing to people in constant pancakes? It should just be just terrible. Superman punching someone in the face. I get it. It's for kids. But to me, that's kind of, you can feel... It just feels fake. It doesn't feel authentic to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's kind of Invincible is kind of our love letter to superhero comics, and making it authentic and work in the world that we've created for it. So, did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, totally.
Sometimes
was there a point that, it's interesting. What in preparation for this, I went back and did through a lot of very early issues of Invincible into some. God, these are just not staying in.
Duct tape on those things. Duct tape.
So, was there a moment for you? I say that all that's to say that your style has remained fairly consistent in a way, right? Like it's still, you could look at those early pages and like, oh yeah, no, that is 100% Ryan Ottley. But was there a moment for you where you felt like that was kind of an aha moment for you, maybe in developing your style and what you wanted to do? You know, I mean, obviously a lot of what you do like evolves over time.
Yeah.
But was there a moment kind of in the run where you're like, okay, this is where I feel like I've mastered me?
I remember through the whole 20 years, it's like I'm talking to other artists, and a lot of artists, and I had the same kind of thought process where if you're drawing one project for a long time, you don't want to change the style much, you
Sure.
know? Since so there's that thing in your head, it's just like, oh, I want to experiment and play with something else. I have to wait till I do a new project.
Mhm.
And the problem with me is that I was on one project for a really, really long time, longer
Correct.
than most humans have ever done. So it's
Yeah.
like it's not normal. And so there's no way I'm just going to stay in the box
Right.
of my early style forever. That just it was boring, you know.
Hmm.
But I didn't want to leave. I really loved Invincible. I loved working with Robert. It was just this world we were creating, and it was just so much fun. And
Hmm.
there was really no writer out there that I saw that could do better, for me, And
Right.
so I experimented. I was like, all right, I feel like doing more cross hatching, or I feel like, doing, getting better at spotting blacks and getting better at anatomy and buildings and just design, aliens, costumes, all that stuff. And my goal was just each issue was a new project,
Hmm.
and I'm just trying to do better on each issue. And so you can definitely see the difference between the beginning and the end, in my opinion. I mean, hopefully people can see that.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I think I answered it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So it's funny because I think you just posted on, speaking of character design, you posted on Instagram a couple days ago, the villain Gridlock, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Where right, like a character that, Robert kind of gave you no real stuff on, and you turned in like a really great design. And so like how much of that just kind of comes off the cuff for you sometimes versus like were there some designs that like you feel like you put your some blood, sweat, and tears into? Because
Yeah, there's a difference. So I mean, with monthly comics, it's extremely hard to find time to do regular concept work.
sure.
Where you have like, I'm going to spend, hours or today on this new design. No, you have to get a page done a day at least.
Right.
And so it's like, sometimes I would just design right on the page,
D-
you know. I think Gridlock is one of those where it was just like, it was in issue 11, and he's kind of an important character because he's the one that was about to throw a car on Debbie, and no
right.
one, met her at that time. So, I mean, he only shows up like twice in the whole series, but, he's important in that because he was there and
Of
he's
course.
he's the one that got them together, basically.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
matchmaker. Good old Gridlock, the matchmaker. But yeah, that design I just designed right on the page, so it's pretty basic. It's more of the detail that I throw into it, the rocks cracking and the dynamic
Mhm.
posing, all that kind of stuff that makes it more interesting. But it's just a piece of road with a line down the middle. You know what I mean? So,
Right. Right. Uh,
but it's fun.
for you,
Sometimes simplicity is fun, in my opinion.
yeah. There we go. For you, was comics or art always the end goal for you, or is there an alternate universe where Ryan Ottley is a biochemist?
Oh God, no. Yeah, just drawing. Yeah, I've been drawing since as long as I can remember. So my mom said about 2 years old, I started
Okay.
just getting into it, and it's just one of those things that always enamored me. So, um, and really didn't get into comics till I was 15.
Hmm.
So it was always like I was into Sunday comics, newspaper
Yep.
comics, the comic
Right.
strips, and then Garfield and Mad Magazine and Calvin and Hobbes and all that kind of stuff. And I was really into that, but I never got into comics. I didn't really know. I'm from Utah, very small comic scene back in the '80s.
Sure.
So uh, yeah, once I got into it, it was so the first comic I read was like an amazing. No, it was a Web of Spider-Man with Alex Sabiuk, if that's how you pronounce his name. And I was like, all right, this is rad. I want to start buying this stuff, you know. So I just started buying it, and you know, Todd McFarlane was the one where I found him. That's the first comic I actually bought. Was an Amazing Spider-Man 328. I think it was his last issue of the run.
Okay.
But that one, I saw that and was like, oh, the dynamism, the energy, the insanity, like that's what I want to do. I'll just do that then. Forget everything else, you know. I mean, I before comics, I was a portrait artist.
Okay.
I did other kind of art jobs in that way, and yeah, being a copy machine is very boring. Much more fun just to it's much more hard to me. Drawing from your head, anatomy, perspective, all that stuff is just the hardest thing to learn, really, because you have to memorize so many different things, and anatomy is one of the hardest, in my opinion. So,
Right. So, well, so I'd love to hear. So, what was one of the things that I try and ask creators when I chat to them during these things is finding kind of your comics community in a sense, right? So like it's for you, maybe less so as like a, you know, kid growing up and like having friends and stuff that were into that, but like as a creator, like when and how did you feel like you really began to, you know, find other creative friends, and like who do you begin to like bounce ideas off of, and like what does the kind of first Ottley inner circle maybe look like for you as a young creator, and how important was it for you to kind of pull that group together to then get your career started?
well, I mean,
Or was it super solitary and you were just like, I'm doing it and I'm going to find a way to do it?
yes, it was very solitary. And I kind of look back and I'm like, yeah, that's actually the way you should do it, because a group doesn't work. You're drawing comics alone. There's no one with you, you know. So that's why I'm like, that's why I kind of, anytime people ask me about schooling, I'm just like, don't do schooling. Art school is extremely expensive. And the most compelling part, or the most enticing part about going to an art school is the community. It would be awesome to hang out with a bunch of people that you know, you got the same goal and you're really into this
Right.
drawing thing. It's awesome. It's just you got to have less of a group if you want to get deadlines done. You know what I mean? And so, and it's not that hard to give yourself your own assignments. And
Sure.
so that's what I did. And then I did do the correspondence course through Joe Kubert School. So I did like
Okay.
one of those, and it was awesome because Joe Kubert himself actually, you know, gave me all the notes and that kind of thing. So that was really
Nice.
fun, and it definitely helped me realize I was okay, because I've always been someone who was less confident, you know, and so, you know, like back when I was like 19, 20, I you know, I mean, not in 1920, when I was 19 or 20,
Right.
I you know, submitted some art to Marvel and DC, you know, all the top, and I think it
Sure.
was 8 total, and rejections across the board. So I'm like, all right, I'm done. You know, as opposed to someone like Todd McFarlane, and you've probably heard his story,
Oh yeah.
where it's like,
Right.
you know, but I wasn't going to take no for an answer, but I sent in the book, no, whatever. But he sent in like 300, right?
That
He
is an
just
A
kept
plus
going
Todd.
and going. He didn't give a shit. He's much more audacious than I am, and so uh, I looked at that and I'm like, maybe I should be more like that. But you know, I just gave up basically. And
Sure.
so, and this happens sometimes. Sometimes you just feel like giving up, and then I did that Joe Kubert correspondence course, and he gave me some really good notes and said, I'm definitely good enough, keep going. And then I joined online, like digitalwebbing.com, penciljack.com, and people are just like, this is good stuff, man. Are you going to draw comics or what? And I'm like, oh, maybe I should. You know, I was working in a warehouse at the time, and yeah, I shortly after that, I got a job with Robert. So I was just doing small stuff here and there, you know, short stories and that kind of thing for free. I kind of looked at that as my college. So I was just collaborating with a few guys, and they would write me a small script. It wasn't like a huge thing that I had to promise. You know, it
Right.
wasn't like a big miniseries or anything like that. It's like 8 pages here, 10 pages there. So I did like 10 of those, like, you know, quite a bit. And you know, that's when Robert found me, on Pencil Jack and said, "Hey, do you want to do a book together?" And I'm
And
like,
the
"What
rest
you
is
thinking?"
history.
And he said, "The book I'm thinking is called Presidents of the United States, and it's about the presidents being cloned and blah blah." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll pass." So I said no to Robert. The first thing. A couple months after that, he's like, "How about a fill-in for Invincible?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll do a fill-in." So, and that was issue 8.
Yeah. And then that's it.
Yeah, so I did the issue 8 pencils and inks in 2 weeks, and he said, "Do you want to just stay on full time?" I said, "Okay."
Did you always? So I assume. I guess at this point you've always inked yourself,
Yeah, I mean,
initially and at the beginning. Then.
oh, for sure, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of expensive to pay other people, so at the time, we were all starving
But
artists.
does that change? When you ink yourself, does that change the way you pencil?
Oh God, yes. This is why this is why I love inking myself.
Right.
I mean, through all of Invincible, I inked myself on the covers. I inked the first 40 issues, and it was nice getting Cliff to come on board. Cliff, he has a different style where he does like the old school, like the Raphael 2 dipping brush and pen nibs, stuff I hate using because it's just such a pain. And I've stabbed myself with quill pens. I have a tattoo right there. It's the only tattoo I have. But yeah, you spill the ink and you have to wash the brushes and just like
Right.
now I just use like microns and pen nibs. So my inks look a little more loose compared to Cliff's, but having an inker on board, it really allowed me to level up my penciling, just basically spend more time on it.
Right.
So I could spend a month on pencils instead of 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks on pencils and the rest on inks. And so, yeah, it all leveled up
One
for
of
me.
the things I keep hearing you talk about is deadlines. And I feel like that is, for most people, sometimes the hardest part. But for you, it feels like there is a sense of determination, but also like, I don't know. I mean, obviously, a work ethic to making sure that like you're always doing that. Is that something that, like, where does that come from for you?
For doing deadlines?
Yeah, or just like yeah, or like it feels like that is something that is very ever present in that is always kind of top of mind for you. And I feel like for some folks, it's yes, deadlines are important, but for you, it feels way more like a way of life than necessarily maybe oh shit, I need to get stuff done on time. Is that
Yeah.
am I reading too much into that?
No, I think it's an extremely important part of the job, um, because if not, it would be the books would be extremely late. And sure,
Sure.
we gave a lot of allowance to people like, I mean, I don't have to name names. The
Sure.
comics that were super late back then, in the
Right.
90s and 2000s. They just, I mean, sometimes there was like a comic every 6 months or a comic a year, and you're just
Yeah.
like, wow. And a lot of us didn't care because the art looked so good. They
Yeah.
spent so much time on it that it's like, whatever. I'll just wait 6 months and read that book and love it, and then read other stuff in the meantime.
Yeah.
But when we started Invincible, it was in the early 2000s.
Yep.
People were getting sick and tired of that. Books were not like it's. I think it has to do with the age group of the fans. They were willing to give their heroes allowances, but new people coming in, we're all
100%.
kind of the same age, and there wasn't like tons. People were leaving reading comics, not coming in droves, and so they
Yep.
weren't going to give us the time of day.
Yeah.
So we had to. Basically, you have to do a deadline style, which I think Todd McFarlane came up with that term. I don't know for sure, but I think I heard that. But a deadline style, you basically have to figure out lots of shortcuts.
Yep.
And so that's part of the learning as well. You look at Jack Kirby, you look at Eric Larson, Greg Capullo, their shortcuts are insane. I mean, they're really good, which means you don't need to draw a whole car. Just draw the headlight. And
Right.
the reader will fill it in their mind. Oh, they're in traffic. You don't
Yeah.
need to draw actual traffic. You know what I mean? You have to figure out all those
I've
shortcuts.
never heard it that way, and that's brilliant.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
right.
Yeah, or when you do a double page spread, you're like Todd McFarlane page, you fill up the entire thing with Spider-Man, and then you have some buildings in the background.
Right.
You don't need to draw a small Spidey and tons of buildings. It's actually not as dynamic feeling when you turn that page,
Yeah.
and it's just Spidey, and you're just like boom, just right in the face of all that crazy twisted anatomy that's impossible. It's freaking badass. But Yeah, tangent. What was the question?
No, that was good. No, I mean, look, it feels like
Deadline.
that is, yeah, deadlines.
Deadlines. Yeah. So
Very important.
very, very important. So with Battlebeast, we're starting earlier because I'm inking myself again. All of these pages I'm inking, and it's taking longer. I'm getting older, and I don't want to do 12 issues a year anymore, right? And
Right.
so, we're starting much earlier and trying to get as much done as possible. So, yeah.
Right. But for you at the time, right? Like that, I mean, it was a very ever present thing for you.
It's
And
always
so,
there, yeah. And you cannot be a perfectionist. It's just impossible. You don't see any of the artists that take too long. They just any of the perfectionist artists, they cannot do a monthly book. It's really difficult, because
yeah.
there's no time for redrawing too many things or redrawing a page or any of that stuff. So, yeah.
I'd love to take a little bit of a left turn to talk about, we talked about your approach and thoughts on big action, but the other thing that you do incredibly well is the drama, whether it's through facial expressions or, what traditionally people would consider the quote boring talking head scenes or whatever. You managed to make those pages, pretty interesting. Where does that kind of come from for you? Is that more something that comes from maybe an influence of something, or how do you? What's the mindset for you as you approach those pages, as opposed to someone getting a fist through their stomach?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's you have to kind of learn. It's not really you don't have to learn acting, but you have to learn how to fake acting, basically, right? And so when I read the script, I'm feeling the emotional beats. I think I know what he wants, and so I just try to make the actors, the drawings that I do, the faces that I do, emote the best way I can. Because it's not just dynamism I'm into or energy. I am really into emotion. And so if there's a sad scene, I really want to push it, do the close-ups, you kind of have to learn some movie tricks, watching film and seeing how they, when do they close up? When do they back up? When do they do a top view or bottom view? And all of those have certain feelings that help emote the scene. And so you just got to learn those. And yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite things. I mean, you got to know when to flex, and flexing is for the fight scenes, right? I spend more time on that. The talking scenes I don't spend as much time on because I'm kind of you don't have to do a masterpiece on all of those. It's just the main thing you're focusing on is the masterpiece of the emotion that you're trying to display, but you don't have to like draw the hell out of a kitchen that they're talking in. That's very good, So, it's mainly those faces, and really that's really what most people look at. Most of the time is spent on the word bubbles, and then the faces are next. So you gotta portray that emotion good enough,
There we go. All right, let's talk Battlebeast for a little bit. What Battlebeast is a character that's kind of always come off as like mythic in a sense, right? Like he's part warrior, part force of nature. Do you see Battlebeast as a tragic figure, or like a power fantasy, or is he maybe something a little more nuanced for you?
Probably very mentally ill. I don't know. I mean, he's got all that rage going through his brain to the point it's just driving him absolutely insane. He just wants to die a worthy death. He just wants to. I mean, and he doesn't want to die exactly, or he would just do it. He wants
Sure.
to have a death that is so immaculate and amazing that it feels like it's worth it. And so he will fight anyone and do his best to stay alive, even though,
Right.
yeah. But there's that rage that he has that's like stuck in his brain. So yeah.
Uh-huh. So, what what is it about Battlebeast, kind of outside of that makes him, in your opinion, so compelling? Because like this is a character, like you said, right? Like it's a character that kind of like popped up here and there, and then you did the Skynet story, and like, and then. Right. Then the show hits, right? Like, and that's a whole other thing that we'll talk about in a little bit. Like, show hits, and then, he's exposed to even more people.
Yeah.
And so totally kind of makes sense to like put Battlebeast up in the spotlight for you. But for you, what do you think makes him so compelling?
The way Robert writes him. I mean, I think that's where really, from all these stories, I think that's the most compelling part of any story is just the way they write each person, and his story is just so interesting. It's funny as well, just the way he acts. Yeah, I mean, it's really different than any character that we have.
Right.
You know, I guess there's a few characters that have acted like that. Conquest, for example, he can be like,
Right.
more. Give me. I want to fight more. That's kind of.
But even those are like two characters that are on the surface very similar, but also incredibly different, right?
Yes.
Like their intentions and all that are way different than they you would expect them to be in a sense.
Yeah, for sure.
For two brutes that just want to beat the shit out of something.
Absolutely, yeah. And I just also he's just always on it. He's always just ready to go and like, come on, let's go. Let's find the next fight.
Yeah.
And then he's pissed off if it's too easy. It's like watching a basketball game and it's not a close score. It's just like, come on, it's boring. Yeah. He needs it to be close for it to be somewhat entertaining, I guess.
So I have to imagine that this book is going to give you an opportunity to do some world building that is fairly different than the kind of world building that was happening on Invincible.
Oh my God, yeah, it's very different. Very different. No spoilers, but it's just like it seems to be jumping a few different genre right now. Like, starts with superhero, goes to sci-fi, and then it just goes to this really rad dark fantasy. And it just without spoiling too much, I'm in it, and it's a blast. I'm having so much fun. Parts
so
that
this like
really
basically
too much of that in that genre in Invincible. So it's pretty cool adding to the universe like that.
So this kind of like we would say like you kind of maybe doing Conan in a sense.
No.
Different. Okay.
It's like a man. Yeah, I don't want to spoil.
Okay. All right. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
We obviously, right, with a character like Battlebeast, who is so eager to fight, as opposed to a character like Invincible, who is just trying to get by, be a superhero and do a good thing, right? Like, so obviously everyone is expecting the ultraviolence to kind of be leveled up a little bit. But how do you keep the ultraviolence when it's so much, or how does it become more impactful when it's so much more tied into the character's kind of DNA as opposed to like the shock value maybe where the violence is in the world of Invincible, right? Like there's still gonna be shock in the violence or whatever, but for this character, it's way more normal for him than it is necessarily else. And so like, do you have to go a step further to shock yourself in doing it and then have it kind of feel normal? Or like I say, like, how do you work that out?
I think it's all about just trying to get more creative with some of the fights. I know in issue 2 or 3, I forget. I think it is, maybe it's 3. I don't remember.
Right.
Anyway, there's a scene where we had to do some cool violent act, and in the script, I was just like, I'm going to change it to this. And so we come up with this much different kind of, without giving any, details away. I get on the phone with Robert and we're talking about this scene. And so we just kind of figured out the whole scene much differently. And so to me, it's just much more collaborative, and we're trying to use much more imaginative fight scenes in this thing as well. So, and there is a level of desensitization with Battlebeast. He doesn't, nothing shocks him, but nothing really shocks Robert and I too much. It's just, it's just we're just playing, right? We're playing. Right?
Is there a moment that you were basically waiting for readers to get to, so that way, like, for them to react, so you can then be like, got him.
Yes. We totally love that. I mean, and that's the thing. Fight scenes are they need to be written in a certain way where it's like the reader cares. And so that's where the writer comes in and takes care of these characters in a certain way that when the fight does happen, it's interesting, you know? Because like I don't know if you've seen, but some people will just do a fight scene. They're like, oh, people like fight scenes, so I'm just gonna do this comic with a fight scene with characters they don't care about. It doesn't work. It's not interesting. And I think it was Jet Li that was talking about martial arts, and he's just like, you can choreograph the best fight scene in the world, but without a story, that fight scene is going to be forgettable. No one's going to care. You know, it's like watching The Raid. I like to bring up that example. The Raid, they do such a good job in that film to very quickly, right at the beginning, make you care about those characters, you know? And so once the fighting starts, you're just like all in. And so every fight scene is the most coolest thing ever. And you are gunning for this guy to stay alive the whole entire time. And so that's kind of what I love about working with Robert is he does that. He makes sure he lays down the story so importantly and so interesting that when a fight happens, it's you are all in and you cannot wait to see who's going to win this thing.
Right. Oh, I love that. That's really interesting. So then for you, let's on the thread of action scenes, right? And we can kind of use this as a transition to the show a little bit, right? So the show hits, everyone freaking loves it. For you, what's it kind of like to see your action scenes that you lay the blueprint for and did like come to life in that way?
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's very cool. Yeah, there's a lot of people that say, why doesn't the show look like your art? Blah blah blah. It's like, just get your book out, look at this book while you're watching the show, and you can see the amount of callbacks that they do.
Yeah,
to my fight scenes. I mean, it's like the conquest scene, for example. They animate up to the pose that I created in the book.
Right.
Super cool. Or the Alan, the first time Alan got torn to shreds by the Viltrumites. It's just like they're fighting him, and then it stops on the panel of him just being destroyed. Which is the same layout and composition that I drew. So they've been doing that a lot, and it's always super cool to see. Absolutely, yeah. Mm-hmm. So one of my favorite things, yeah.
Does seeing some of that stuff play out in animation then influence and or change how you maybe now approach action when doing art?
No. Right. Not at all. No. I just do my thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I ask only because I know, when, just kind of even talking about camera angle, just even like the camera angles and things like that, where you're using movies as an example. If any of that, it does anything, but I mean, you're doing such a great job that they're basically copying it panel for panel anyway. So who the hell cares?
Yeah. They're two very, very different things, right? I mean,
right.
I draw. I only have to do one drawing per action.
Sure.
And they have to do tons of drawings per action.
Yeah. And
I mean, of course, it's very different. They have hundreds of people drawing it. Comic, there's just one dude, that draws everything, design, storyboards, all that stuff. So it's hard to compare. You can't really compare each.
Right.
They're very different mediums. So
Invincible obviously had a diehard following pre-show, and it feels like that now that millions of more people have come to the party, it feels like an even bigger deal. As someone who, you regularly do, conventions and stuff like that, do you feel like the king of the con, now in that, is that, I have to imagine for you, I imagine you were always busy, but now I have to imagine you're even more busy. What's that? What has that kind of transition been like?
It's kind of weird. It's like, there's times where I'm like, I kind of miss the way it was a little bit.
Right.
Like this is better, but it's like, it was nice to be able to go at a con and you're just like hanging out, and there, you talk to your neighbor, you hang out, you get to walk around the con. I just don't walk around the con too much anymore. It's 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 extremely busy. I just did C2, and it was the busiest con I've ever done in my life. I mean, it was
Uh-huh.
constantly a line, and just new Invincible fans, and it's amazing. It's
Hmm.
really cool. But then there's that aspect of I don't get to see friends until after, and so we'll
Sure.
go get dinner and that kind of thing. And then I love to draw, and so it's mainly just draw, hang out. After that, we just go and draw our commissions because I still
Right.
take commissions because I still love drawing commissions. It's a smaller list than it used to be, but
Right.
because I used to be able to draw at the table
Sure.
and I can't, so I
Right.
have
So
to
now you're
wait
signing.
until after the con, stay
Uh-huh.
up till 2 in the morning and just draw. You know.
What are some maybe unexpected things that show up at your table when you're at a con? Whether it's someone brings you something, like do you get like deep cut, like someone's favorite issue of Invincible like shows up at your table and you're like, oh shit, I haven't seen this in a while? Or is it just, mostly, hey, Invincible, I have Invincible #1, please sign this, or an
Yeah,
Invincible pop? Like what
I'm not
what
surprised
do
by
you
any.
get?
I'm not surprised by any Invincible comics. I see every
Okay.
single issue, that kind of thing. But
Sure.
every once in a while, someone will bring something super old, like stuff I did before Invincible,
Right.
as a very low print run, a short story, or I did a book called Oz F5,
Hmm.
which is like this Wizard of Oz type of superhero book. Um, that's always rare. Oh wow, haven't seen this in forever. No, and then, or there's like Death Grub. I don't know if you've heard
Yep.
of Death Grub. It's like
Yep.
this one issue that I did in a day. In
Yeah.
24 hours, I wrote, penciled, and inked, and
Right. For 24
and
24 hour comic book day or something like that, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
24
Yeah.
hours. Where we just sat in a comic shop, and sometimes it was my office. It just depends.
Yeah.
But that's always surprising to see because it's such an old one, and it's just cool. So
Right.
it's just a
Well,
fun project.
nice.
But yeah, the
Uh
toys too. People do bring gifts. People bring drawings.
uh
Little gifts here and there. Like I had a little Omni Man from C2E. Where'd it go? It's probably upstairs. Oh well. Anyway, but yeah, just little toys that they paint, or
mhm.
they get a toy and they repurpose it into one of our characters.
Sure.
They want to give that to me, and so it's awesome. Yeah, so I just have a place on my shelf and put them up.
Nice. That's awesome. Um what would you say is a question that you get a bit, like from fans at cons,
Oh,
that maybe just gives you like, oh shit, that's actually that's a great question. I'm asking you for questions other people have asked
yeah, I'm
for
trying to
content
think.
of the show. Because I got to imagine, like, when you're sitting there at the show, I mean, yes, you're trying to get through a line, but I think like one of the things that I've seen, at least like as a fan, just kind of admiring your line even at New York this past year. You're like, was it New York? Yeah, you were at New York, right?
Yeah, yeah, I try
Yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah. I remember seeing like you take time to like chat with folks, and like I feel like
Oh yeah,
that is a huge piece of building that fan connection for you. And so like how, I mean, obviously it's intentional, but like for you, what does it mean to make sure you can also capture that moment with
oh,
someone
it's
coming up
awesome.
to you?
I love talking to readers, viewers, all of them. They're super cool. And I guess one of the questions I hear a lot is so what do you do for the show? Are you a voice actor? That one. I'm like, nope, I am not Stephen Young. But I tell them what I do for the show, which is I'm a
Yeah.
creative consultant for the show, but it's not just that. It's I'm one of the creators of the Invincible universe,
Hmm.
and you know helped
And that
create
blows their mind.
lots of dudes in there and
I love
peeps. So
it.
that's one of the more common ones.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know. I can't remember anymore. But it's great. It's awesome to hear their enthusiasm. That's actually one of my favorite things. I think.
What does an average day for you look like? Like, are you someone who is on a fairly regimented schedule where it's like get up, have my coffee, then sit down, draw a page, or take a break, or what? Like what does your day kind of look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically that.
Yeah.
Are you a stalker? I mean, how do you know that? My secret coffee. Is this a normal thing that humans do? Is drink coffee every morning? No, that's exactly what I do. I get up and work, but these days are much different. I take a lot more breaks. I've had back problems. I've had eye problems because I didn't realize that sitting all day is actually quite dangerous. Desk job is quite freaking dangerous. So we have to take care of ourselves. We got to,
Right.
my eye doctors and regular doctors are like, your back, your eyes, you need to get up like every 20 minutes. Look somewhere else, open the window, look outside in the distance.
Right.
You're staring close.
Feel the sunlight.
And your eyes are going to be wrecked, and your back and your legs or hamstrings are getting tight, and you're going to get sciatica and herniated discs, which I've had. So, yeah, I take more breaks these days and try to move around. And yeah, I was working out. I got to get back into that because that is the most helpful part of it. So,
what other kinds of what do you kind of do for fun? Like, are you a big movie guy? Are you a more outdoorsy person? Like what?
yeah, for outdoors, I like biking.
Okay.
And I live in Utah, and so we're pretty close to mountains and trails and that kind of thing.
Right.
The only thing that sucks is we got lions running around here.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah, mountain lions, they suck. I haven't seen one yet, thank goodness. But yeah, I've seen the videos. I do if I run into one. But and then we
Like,
got
the neighborhood watch group is blowing up. There's someone's got a cougar in their backyard. Like, oh no thanks.
For real, yeah. And then we got rattlesnakes, which I have seen those.
Oh wow.
I've been like 2 feet away from one of them, and so that was pretty
No
scary.
thanks.
I just
No
hear this rattle, and I'm like, what is that? Did I kick rock? Why is the rock falling down the hill in such an amazing pattern? And I look down, and it's just there, coiled up, and it's reaching its head back, ready to strike. I'm like, all right. So I had to walk away from that. But so that's what I do outdoors is I fight, dangerous animals. But and then I like
That is some real life inspiration right there.
exactly. But yeah, I definitely like movies. I like comedy shows. I'm gonna go see Todd Barry tonight.
Nice.
Funny guy. So I'm excited.
Okay. Nice. All right. So I'll let you. I got like 1 or 2 more questions for you, and then I'll let you go. But obviously, we're all excited for Battlebeast. But for you, what else? Did you have? Is there stuff on the horizon for you beyond Battlebeast, or do you kind of have to then get back into the Invincible mines again for the next season? And like, how much time does that eat up? Kind of your day to day in a bit, or
It's all the time. I mean, I'm constantly getting new episodes. So basically, I get to see the scripts. I get to see pretty much everything beforehand. The animatics come in, and we get to comment on it and blah blah blah. But not only that, not only the show, it's like the emails of the video games, the merch, the new T-shirts, like everything us three get to approve and say yay or nay on. So basically, we're creative consulting for every single product we have, and it's
right.
It's fun.
Is that how much of that part of the business of like being was maybe a surprise to you as Invincible started to kind of blow up, right? Like, because this is a side of creating comics that not necessarily that you don't get when you're working at Marvel and DC, right? Yeah, exactly. But 2 is something that like is kind of the hope and dream for a lot of folks. And so for someone who's actually, has realized it, how much of the actual involvement of that stuff and the amount of it maybe came as a surprise for you?
I mean, it's all a surprise because I didn't even know that was something I could expect.
Right.
So to see it start trickling in and then it exploding with the show, and even the show, I mean, I wasn't totally sure if it would do well. I have no idea. Never had this. But even with the comics, like everything's a risk.
Right. Totally. I mean, like, because look, Robert's talked about it, right? Like in the fact that, like, the early days of Invincible, the mid days of Invincible, towards the end of it, right? Like it was a bit of a roller coaster for you guys, just as far as the book is, like the viability of the book is concerned. And then,
when I started the book, Robert said, "Hey, just so you know, this might be canceled at any minute. I mean, we have very low numbers." it's not doing great. And I said, I don't care. I'll
Right.
draw anything. I'm trying to get in. And so Invincible was my first gig, my first, professional
Right.
gig. So the plan was I'll just do it for portfolio reasons and
Yep.
then jump over to Marvel and DC as soon as I can. And that was the plan for everybody. And I get why. It's less risk. You're getting a page rate. You're getting a
Right.
promised amount. With creator owned comics, you don't know what's going to happen. Are people going to like you at all? If it's successful creator owned, then you got something that's very rare, and you get to have a nice percentage. So
Yeah.
basically, creator owned comics, it's usually 50-50.
Right.
The creators are the writer and the penciler. They get to split things 50-50. And then you pay a inker if he wants to come in and ink. You pay a
Sure.
colorist. They get the page rates, that kind of
Right.
thing. But,
Right.
yeah.
But for you then, like as the snowball started to roll down the Invincible Mountain, it feels like for you each and every day was a pleasant surprise, but also like, oh crap, this is becoming the thing we had hoped it always had been, and now
Yes.
here we are.
Really, my hope. So during the Invincible run, I mean, we have, like you said, we have an amazing fan base. Still do.
Yep.
It's just that they're fans that the comics community hasn't really gotten much larger since then. Not a lot of people were coming in. It was just the same people reading books. So that's why there was a ton of people that were like, no, we're not touching Invincible. We don't need new superheroes. I'm a Marvel guy, or I'm a
Right.
DC guy. I only like Batman, that kind of thing. And so when the TV show comes out, it did something that I was not expecting. It reached these, a lot of anime fans,
Yep.
manga fans, which I'm a huge anime fan. I love manga. I'm a huge manga fan as well. So, and what you do is you watch the anime and you're like, that was awesome. I want to read the manga, compare, and that's basically what's happening. And so there's a huge amount of people that not only Invincible. It seems like Robert is the guy that is with Walking Dead and Invincible. He's bringing so many people into the comics community,
Yep.
and to me, that's the dream. You want to
Yep.
bring more people into this, and it's so hard with comics. And
Mm-hmm.
so, especially now you have to
Right.
make a TV show before they come into read comics, and it's fine, whatever works out. But
Yeah.
I'm
But I mean,
glad.
but like you guys kind of, are helping blow the door open to show folks that they can like superhero stuff that is not Marvel and DC. They can, there
And hopefully
is
artists
a,
as well.
yeah,
Hopefully
right.
artists and writers see that your end game doesn't have to be a giant corporation.
Yep.
It's good. You can totally use it if you can. I guess because I changed like while I was drawing Invincible, my mindset changed. It was one of those things where I'm like, I'm going to draw 10 issues and then leave because this book's probably going to be canceled anyway. I got to get to Marvel and DC. That's where all my peers are going. This is the end game. And then once I kept drawing it, after a year, 12 issues go by, 24 issues go by, and then I'm like, and I read comics. There's just nothing that matched what I wanted
Right.
to draw, and I want that freedom, the freedom to just draw things the way I want to draw. And that was with Invincible. With the way Robert writes is exactly what I wanted. And so that's why I just stayed for 14 freaking years, So, and glad I did. Glad it worked out, and then I jumped to Marvel. Now I'm back to Image. So
I do want to ask this a little bit in that, and this will be the only very little, because I'm sure I'll get shit from Robert just even for asking, but the two big superheroes that you've drawn, Invincible and Spider-Man, right? Main characters who are similar enough in that maybe they're civilian personas or whatever, but have very different body language in their as their superhero personas.
yeah.
What did you maybe like? Was there anything that you kind of learned in the Spider-Man process that you've now brought back with you? Kind of moving forward as far as that goes, or was Spider-Man just kind of a thing where, obviously you mentioned growing up and being Todd being a big influence, and getting to put a character in impossible poses and getting to do some of that stuff. Was it more of a cathartic release maybe for you in
Yeah.
getting to do that, or
Yes.
like I said, like those are similar enough characters, but also very different. And so, what did that do for you?
Yeah, I think most of my learning happened during Invincible. When I jumped on Spider-Man, I knew I just wanted to make it look like I'm drawing it, you know?
Right.
And so I know that every new Spidey artist has their certain way of drawing Spidey. So it's like, well, I don't want to draw him exactly like Todd McFarlane's Spidey eyes or Eric Larson or anything like that. It's like, what would Otley's eyes look like? Otley Spidey eyes. And
Right.
so, well, I draw kind of angular, that kind of thing. And so, yeah, I just went to town and it was like, that's basically, yeah. So it's almost like I didn't really learn anything on Spidey. It was like only on Invincible. I really honed my style on that and then brought that to Spidey.
Yeah.
And
One of the things I do like about your Spider-Man design is that it seems very much you are very clearly in team big eyes as opposed to team small eyes,
Yes.
which I appreciate because
I do like the larger eyes. Yes.
the bigger eyes, the better.
What I don't do is make them emote. I'm not a huge fan of that.
That's
Like,
fair.
I just like, just, it's material on the face. You know what I mean? I always thought that was weird. I'm like, that's a bit too cartoony. I like some, authenticity to it and practicality, I guess.
Right. One of the other things before we go, I do have to ask about for Battlebeast, and I think it's going to be one of the fun things. There are no necessarily spoilers ish because I'm going to drop this the day it comes out, but like we'll
Okay.
let fans still kind of get surprised a bit. You guys are doing the blind bags, and which are a lot of fun, and for you. What are you or not what are you excited for, because then that would kind of say it, but like I got to imagine that aspect of a launch, right? Because like any you worked on Invincible for a very long time, right? So this is, you only get X amount of number ones kind of in in a career per se, right? A lot of bells and whistles on Battlebeast, a lot of things driving a lot of excitement. The blind bags being a thing. Do you get kind of like butterfly? Is there a sense of butterflies kind of like leading into the day of a launch for you as folks start to not only experience the story but also get to have fun with the blind bags, and then kind of like set the discourse anew again for you? Or is it just like shit, I just need this book out so I can talk about it? Like, or is it a mix?
It's all the above, yeah, for sure. Even so, the blind bags are cool, but I also did a 1 in 2000. So I don't know if
Yeah, right. Oh, right. You did a ton of like original art pieces basically on
Yes, yes. So it was pretty funny because it's one of those things where a couple other comics have done it, and so Robert gave me a call and was like, "Hey, would you want to do this? It's 1 in 2000, so that means every shop that orders 2000 gets one of your sketches." And I said, "How we we thinking about here?" And again, Robert didn't know. I mean, this is the first time we've done this. He's talked to other artists that have done this, and it's not like they're doing tons. And
No,
so he
right.
said probably 10, maybe 20 tops, and it ends up being 89. And so, I draw the first 20 and I sent it out, and then he gave me a call. Just so you know, yeah, we got a lot more. Shit, man, I got comics to draw. Like, what the hell? I mean, I like doing the sketches, but it's like that is taking so much of my time. And
Sure.
so there's kind of a
Look,
mix.
I got to give you a lot of credit though. These are not sketch is a very loose term for what I think these are. These are gorgeous.
Robert and I both have this thing with we want quality.
Yeah.
We want to give comic. I mean, even issue 1 is $4. I mean,
Yep.
and it's a double-sized issue, and so it's like, it's just that's one of the things I really like about him. He wants to help the comics. He wants to help it grow. And he does that kind of thing. So, and I'm the same way, where I want to give a quality piece to someone. If a shop is willing to get 2,000 copies, they better get a good Otley 1 in 2,000. So,
I mean, that's gonna be bananas.
Yeah, I can't wait to see people open the blind bags. I can't wait for people to share their sketches they got, all that kind of thing. And again, there's not. I shouldn't have mentioned the two together. The sketches are not in the blind bags.
No,
That's
right.
just to
They're
make it
separate.
happen. Yeah, but there is the 1 in 1,000 that are in the blind bags, if you're lucky. So, and some of them are signed.
Look, that just means people are just gonna have to buy like 3 or 4 blind bags. Really, is what that means.
Gosh.
You need to buy 3 or 4 copies, and then you need to buy the cover A because the cover A is not guaranteed in the bag. So
Exactly, yeah. So, and I'm getting people come to me at cons, and they're like, I ordered 1,000, I ordered 100, I ordered. I'm like, how many blind bags? That's crazy. It's awesome. It's like, go for it. So, it's going to be pretty exciting. Yeah. What is that? What is today? May 7th? Is it?
yeah, it's next week. Next week.
That's next week. See,
Yep.
I get so lost with time. I have no idea what's going on. Perfect. Awesome.
Man,
Wonderful.
I can't believe I almost made it in a whole interview, and I thought I had it handy, and now I don't. But like one of the things that that I love that you've done is the very random issue of Solid Blood that happened. I love it.
We didn't do that.
No, you're right. No. That's
Yeah, it's some kind of multi-dimensional thing.
That's right.
Some copycat. I don't know what it is.
I love that you and Robert stick to the bit. It's perfect. It's great. No, there's no kayfabe there. I love it.
Bit? What are you talking about?
Ryan, man, thank you so much for your time today. I really do appreciate it. This has been an absolute blast. I'm excited for Battlebeast. I'm so glad that so many people are coming to the world of Invincible and they're buying compendiums left and right. I couldn't be happier for you, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
thanks
Tim.
again.
Appreciate it. Thanks, buddy.
And that about does it for another episode of Let's Talk Comics. Huge thank you to Ryan Ottley for not only pulling back the curtain on Battlebeast, but also walking us through what it really takes to stay sharp, stay hungry, and stay inspired after 2 decades in this business. Look, the work speaks for itself. But I think the cool thing is hearing how much care, and I guess to an extent chaos, goes into each page makes it hit even harder. Depending on when you're listening to this, Battlebeast is out. It's wild. It's violent. It's got heart. And it's only just the beginning. And if you're one of the few lucky ones pulling some of the surprise books that are in the blind bags for Battlebeast, maybe it's time to go buy a lottery ticket. That is not financial advice. I'm just saying, if you pull something good, maybe the luck's on your side a little bit. Thank you again for taking the time to listen to this show. We have a bunch of really cool episodes coming up. In the next couple of weeks, you will hear our very first retailer roundtable, which I'm really excited about. That's a whole different part of the comic book business that for a lot of folks, I think is kind of a bit of a mystery to kind of how it all works. I mean, sure, you go to your comic book store, you buy a book, and that's it. Or you pre-order your book, you go, you pick it up, and that's it. But there's so much more to what these retailers do and the work that they put in that I think would be really interesting for a lot of you. There are a lot of parallels into coming up as a creator in this business as well. So, you know the business, you know the rigmarole. Leave a 5-star review on iTunes, leave a 5-star review on Spotify. If we read the review on the air, we'll send you a minty fresh sticker with the Let's Talk Comics logo on it. And as always, head on over to your local comic book shop, pick up something new, pick up something you love. And because as long as you keep reading comics, we're going to keep on talking about them. So until next time, folks, we'll catch you later.